and welcome to The Bond. So last time we spoke with an amazing Cattery, noblemanescattery, with Daniel Franken, and we talked about bureau cats and catty dates, but this time we're going to be starting in a little bit earlier to the original politicians, which started back in Venice, Italy, back in 828 AD. Now, in Alexandria, Egypt, they actually had a couple of Venetian merchants which brought back cats to Venice in order to introduce them to the Doge. The Doge had a palace in Venice, not Venice Beach, California, but Venice, Italy. And they had a lion as a symbol of their city. Now, this was found on coins and sculptures and whatnot, and the Doge was a ruler from 607 AD until Napoleon Bonaparte actually conquered it in about 1797. So this means that while the Doge was in power, they went ahead and they hosted people like Galileo back in 1609 and learned about military secrets that Galileo offered. The primary secret weapon there was a telescope, which he boasted could allow you to see the ships coming 2 hours before the naked eye could see it. So the Doge employed a lot of these military tactics, which meant that they had a navy, not an army, and soon they dominated all of the merchant routes up and down the Mediterranean. So how did the Doge keep his power when he did not have an army? Well, he used something which was psychological tactics. So for example, there was a steep staircase which went up to the main palace of the Doge, so that the person seeking an audience with the Doge would be exhausted by the time they reached the top of the stairs. Then after that, they would move from certain rooms to certain rooms that were more stark and austere, meaning they were devoid of decorations. And they would do that until their very last room encountered a panel of people dressed in black and would not say a word to the person seeking an audience with the Doge. And then for that stark, sudden shock, they would walk them into an opulent room where the Doge himself was seated on a raised throne, because it was very important for him to be physically above where all the commoners were. And these sorts of psychological tactics worked in keeping people humble and very compliant to the Doge, and it took a little bit of that fight away from them when they were seeking an audience with them. So when the Doge was doing this and had all of these different sorts of people, he built up his navy. And as part of that, they went ahead and took their ships and started dominating the ports, those trade routes. And on these ports were sailors, and the sailors would need to have their food supply, and the food supply would sometimes be attacked by vermin, rodents, rats. And they needed a way to keep that in check. And so they introduced a very large cat. Now, these cats were working cats. They were on the ships in order to not only keep the food supply safe from rodents, but those rodents had plagues, they had diseases, and a lot of times the cargo itself were grain, which would also get attacked by the vermin. So these cats became an incredible, valuable aspect to any ship's crew. And remember, these cats originally came from Alexandria, Egypt. So when these ships ported and docked at port, these cats sometimes would escape and mingle into the general population and crossbreed. And one day, these cats eventually made it into the United States. Fast forward to modern day, and in Maine, we understand that this might be one of the original sources of a Maine Coon cat. And so with that, we understand that there's a lot of details with the Feline Historical Museum in Ohio, and the term Maine Coon was not officially used, but we actually learned that back in the around 1800s, there was a best in show, and a Maine Coon cat named Cozy actually won that for the best cat in show. So with that, we have welcomed back Daniel Franken to continue our conversation about the nuances and the interesting history that makes a Maine Coon such a fantastic breed. So thank you again for coming in and sharing a little bit more about the history of this breed.
My pleasure.
And the first thing I want to ask you is it possible for a large cat like this to actually be a companion animal?
Absolutely. In fact, they make a fantastic companion animal. We actually have some partner catteries who specialized in therapy cat Maine Coons, specifically for special needs children and adults.
Really?
That work as PTSD type therapy for autistic children. They work fantastic for that. Because they are more tolerant than the typical cat, they allow you to, you can manhandle them, you can play with them, you can be more spontaneous, and they're not going to go run away and hide.
They're a little more sturdy.
They're definitely a lot more sturdy, especially with the way that like we in particular raise them, but a lot of the breeders do. So, these guys, when they come, they go from, last time we were talking, the kittens are originally with mom. And then after about 4 to 6 weeks of age, they move to, for lack of a better way of saying, a general population. Okay. And that's all of the moms. So then they are community raised by their mom, their aunts, their grandmothers, their great grandmothers.
So an extended family.
Of felines that raise them, that also help them to be more accustomed to other things that are going on. Older kittens, older cats.
And you think this makes them
more
sympathetic to somebody who's suffering from PTSD? Because one thing I wanted to ask about was that a lot of apartments don't allow dogs.
No.
And they do allow a cat.
Correct.
So if you had PTSD and you needed some sort of a therapy animal at your side, a companion animal, this would be the breed to do that.
It would be the breed, but there would be certain animals within the breed. So not all Maine Coons are good for therapy.
Okay, so explain to me.
It would be how their Storm is a perfect example.
Okay.
A Maine Coon that can just sit here and be quite content, just laying around and not bouncing off the walls. Now, if I would have brought a 16-week-old kitten, we would have not gotten that kitten on camera. It would have been here, there, everywhere, jumping around. It's 16 weeks old.
Okay.
Storm is 3.5, but she is a very tame, relaxed 3.5.
3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Not weeks.
Not weeks.
Okay.
So, in fact, Storm was born at one of my partner catteries, who actually specializes in the therapy animals, and they're down in San Diego. That's Macaulay Coon Cattery. Okay. And that's their forte. They work directly with the special needs community.
The Macaulay Coon actually trains cats to be therapy cats.
That is her niche.
Okay.
And she's spectacular at it. So this is one of her cats. She was born there, came to me to be one of my queens. We continued on the lines. But this is that type of personality. So you need a personality of a cat that is just happy to be with you, that is calm and collected, that helps keep the child or adult calm and collected.
Well, and one thing that has happened when a person has experienced a series of trauma that has made them a PTSD sufferer is that they are not quite ready to be with other humans, but they still require socialization. And so sometimes they are a single in an apartment or in an RV or a more mobile type lifestyle. Would this breed be okay with somebody who lives in a mobile home or an RV that just is on the go?
They absolutely would be. And the cat, unlike traditional cats, they're more interested in being with you and part of you. You don't get to go anywhere without them tagging along. So if you were to leave, they're standing by the door going, can I come? They don't want to be left at home. So they would very much be the type that can travel along with you. And then there's even, so like pure white Maine Coons, or pure white any animal, but particularly any cat, but any Maine Coon, the white gene is a masking gene. It's not that they're a colored white. And the same masks the color.
Okay.
So they could be a black cat underneath, and they're masked by white.
I see.
That same mask is what can make their gold eyes blue, because it masks the pigment of the eye. It can also mask hearing, and solid white cats can be deaf.
So,
and those
solid
actually
white cats have a problem with being deaf.
They can be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a large percentage of them are. And those actually work the best as the special needs animals, because you can't startle them.
I see.
So if you have a small child that suffers from outbursts or
fireworks with the
all
loud
of those
banging,
types of things
lightning,
that set the kid off, or the kid maybe even does, you can't scare the cat. And the other senses of the cat are heightened where they're lacking in their hearing.
So they actually act as an anchor for that person. So they would be fine living on a boat in the water.
Wherever the person is.
They started off with sailors.
So yeah, no, it would be very appropriate. They again just want to be with you, as long as the environment that you have them in is healthy and safe. That's all that matters.
So, has their size resulted in any sort of physical problems for them, like too much weight on the joints?
So all large cats have joint issues, just like any large dog has joint issues. They have a small chance, higher chance than normal cats of having heart-related issues, about 0.4% higher heart-related issues that are not of genetic of nature, but just naturally occurring. So, but everything is proportionately larger. So anytime you're talking about a large animal, the amount of food that they eat, even things like the litter box. You can't go to PetSmart or Petco and buy a litter box for a Maine Coon.
So where do you get your litter box?
So we actually
for a Maine
use
Coon
concrete
cat?
mixing trays from Home Depot and Lowe's.
You go to home improvement stores
Yes.
and you get concrete mixing trays.
Right. That are large enough to house a Maine Coon, because a small 12 by 14 litter box.
So to have a majestic breed like this, they really need to go to your class.
So, I mean, that's part of our go home pack, and most breeders are that way. It's over 300 pages. And a lot of it is just how do you deal with these everyday situations that are bigger than what you're used to handling. It'd be no different than somebody that's used to having a Yorkie and goes and buys a bull mastiff that's 200 pounds. Everything is going to be a learning curve. Now you've got something that can bowl through the door. Well, these guys, if they wanted to, they're pound for pound as strong as a tiger. So these are the strongest, not just biggest, but strongest cats in the domestic cat world.
So tell me, what was it about the Maine Coon breed that made you fall in love and become a professional breeder?
So the funny story about how I became a breeder is, so I was an electrical design engineer for over 20 years. Owned an engineering firm, government contracts, the whole 9 yards. When I went to retire, it was very simple that I don't like golf.
You do not like golf?
Do not like golf. And I thought, what better way to spend my retirement than play with kittens?
Oh.
And that's really how I decided to be a breeder. How I decided on the Maine Coon. I had a Russian Blue that was my soulmate for over 17 years. And when he unfortunately passed away from thyroid cancer, I didn't want another Russian Blue. I wanted something totally different. And I spent months researching, and the first time I met a Maine Coon, which is the same thing that anybody says the first time they meet a Maine Coon, they're blown away at the difference in the personality. And we always kind of say, once you go Maine Coon, you never go back, because it's a totally different world. You have an animal that's interacting with you, that wants to be part of you. That is totally different. So it's a bond that's different than anything else.
That is fascinating. So we have been having a wonderful conversation with Daniel. Stay with us, and we will be right back after this short break.
Hank wants your vote for Senate, but what do you really know about Hank? Hank has never released his birth certificate, his tax returns, and has never responded to allegations that he used catnip. He says he's gone to the vet, but there is no record of him serving in any military branch. Would Hank force females to undergo an ultrasound before being spayed? And should a Maine Coon really be running for Senate in Virginia? We need more facts and fewer fat cats in Washington.
Welcome back. And so, Daniel, I really want to ask you, with this amazing breed, could you tell me about how do you do a cat show? How do you show this cat?
So cat shows are pretty incredible. I mean, you're competing not only within your own breed, but you're competing within the entire cat community. So cat shows are way different than dog shows. Cat shows are designed around a ring. So a ring is a small sub-show of a larger show. So you could have a 10 ring, a 12 ring, where there'd be 10 or 12 different independent judges. And each one of those judges that ring and that collective group of cats. And within that, you'll have best Maine Coon, best Ragdoll, best whatever it happens to be.
Best breed.
You'll also have, within the breed, best color.
Okay.
And then you'll have finals.
But the Maine Coon has a standard.
It does. Yes. So.
And that's by the Cat Fanciers Association?
Well, it depends on which. So there's two main registries in the United States. There's there's TICA, the International Cat Association, and CFA, which is the Cat Fanciers Association. They both have their own rules and regulations, and similar profiles on the breed. So ear placement, eye size and placement, snout, how the paws lay, all of that is breed standard.
But do you participate in shows?
I do. Not as much as I would like, just because I'm a fairly busy person.
You're running a cattery.
Right. Right. We do a lot. So I don't get to show as much as I would like to. But when we have shown, it's been a wild, fun adventure. Meeting other breeders, working with the judges and finding out what they like, what they don't like, how do they do personality-wise, getting them out into the public so that people can see them. Because a great place for you to go and see all of the different breeds is a cat show.
So when you mention other breeders that you network with at these shows, can you tell the difference between a professional breeder versus a hobby breeder? Or do you have an opinion about that?
I do.
Okay.
So, and really, hobby breeder is a misnomer in a name. So there really is no such thing as a hobby breeder. So all breeders fall into two categories: professional breeders and backyard breeders.
Backyard, not hobby.
Not hobby.
Got it.
So backyard breeders doing everything they can to make a fast buck.
I see what you're saying. So the
Professional
professional breeders
breeders,
take their time and they do it right.
registered, do genetic testing, do health testing, regular care and well-being on the cat.
Training,
All of it.
socialization,
Social,
all that.
all of that. What people have started using the word hobby is, I'm small enough that I don't want to claim I'm a business and therefore pay my taxes. That
see.
really is the difference between the use of the word hobby and professional. So the federal government has some pretty clear distinctions on what hobby is versus not. And there is no breeder out there that is a hobby breeder. So it's really, are you doing the ethical breeding, and are you following what's in the best interest of the animals?
So it's really in the best interest of a future owner to also go with a professional breeder.
Absolutely.
Because they have the guarantees that
We
the
do,
cat is
right.
healthy,
Correct.
socialized,
Correct.
all that. Okay.
Correct.
Perfect. So tell me what considerations a new owner should take when they're going on a trip and they want to take their cat with them. Is there any difference between going on an airplane trip, a train trip, a boat trip, or a car trip? Any considerations that they need to take?
So you have to, obviously you'll have to follow the rules and regulations of that carrier.
Sure.
So each carrier will have its own requirements as to how big the animal can be, what type of carrier the animal needs to be in, how many pets can be on that particular flight.
And
So
if they can come out of their carrier during the trip?
no plane or train allows you to take the animals out. That's
Okay.
federal regulations. So you can't, they have to stay in their carrier. But the type of carrier will dictate, depending on the size and shape of the storage area under the seat or whatnot. The easiest for being able to take them out would be a car. Because there
Personal
you
car.
can, a personal
or
car.
a rental car.
Right, because there you have a little bit more control, although from a breeder standpoint, we would still prefer that they are in a carrier for the safety while they're in the vehicle.
That makes
and
sense.
if you want to stop, let them get out, put them on a leash, let them walk around and get some exercise. That's totally different.
So they can view it like a toddler needs to be in a car seat.
Absolutely, absolutely.
A cat needs to be in a carrier.
Right, and for me, we even prefer carriers that integrate into your seatbelts. So not all carriers do. So it's the same thing. I mean, we look at these guys as our children. So, you know, even though, like, say, Stormy here has given birth, she's given me kittens that I have adopted out. They're technically her kittens. I look at them as my grandchildren.
Oh,
And I want my grandchildren to be safe and healthy.
absolutely.
Therefore, how they are transferred from my home to your home, how they're cared for, part of the contract is buyer responsibilities. You as a buyer have responsibilities that you're going to take good care of my animal, that you're going to seek, you know, regular health visits, that you're going to call me if there's a problem. All of that, because that's what the ethical breeder does. Is it's not a quick sale, it's a lifetime relationship.
And everybody wants a lifetime relationship
right.
that lasts and has a happily ever after
And really,
ending.
for me, in that regard, the most important thing is knowing that, you know, kittens that I'm placing last week, last year, next month, next year, those are going to be parts of those people's families forever. That even years after I'm gone, a kitten that I have placed with a family could have influenced that family, comforted that child, to where that child is now telling those stories to their grandchildren about this incredible animal that I had as a child. And I made that happen.
And the memories.
Right. And that's what the ethical breeder looks for, is we want to provide those lifelong loves that have become part of your family, not the quick dollar.
So quickly, in our last minute, could you tell a little bit more for our audience about Nobleman's Cattery and what makes it so special and why they should come to you?
Well, first and foremost, they should go to an ethical breeder. And we really feel that way. If I don't have the right program or the right cats for you, then we're happy to refer you to somebody else. To us, it's all about you getting a good quality animal, and you getting a healthy animal, and you getting an animal that is going to provide your family with a lifetime of love. So we work really hard with our families. We pre-screen them, just like they should pre-screen me. As a breeder, we pre-screen our families. So we want healthy, safe environments for our animals. And that's the core crux of when you look for a breeder. It should be one that you should be able to get onto the phone and talk with.
And we just want to say thank you so much to Daniel for coming on down here and sharing his wisdom again with this incredible knowledge that he has. And also, fabulous cat. So whether you have decided to follow the Venetian Doge or get your own cat for yourself in your own home, we want to say he might be a resource that's right for you. And if he's not right for you, he can probably refer you to someone that is right for you. So with that, until we bond again.